What's up, ladies and gentlemen of the internet? My name is Jacoby, aka the Habitual Pixel, bringing you another episode of the MOVIEVERSE podcast show where I review movies. I am joined by no one today, it's just me, because Big Nasty Productions, oddly enough, did not want to see this romantic kind of film, but I did, so it's just going to be me, if you're okay with that. This is a story of a 16-year-old cancer patient named Hazel who is forced by her parents to attend a cancer support group where she then meets and falls in love with a former cancer survivor named Augustus Waters. Good old guess. And they fall madly in love, and it's a story about, romance above all else, but there's a whole lot of life stuff in there, and dealing with sadness, dealing with tragedy, dealing with the inevitable death that we're all gonna face, oblivion, if you will. And yeah, I'm gonna chit chat a little bit about it. Let's talk about the source material. This is based off a book called The Fault in Our Stars, obviously, by a author named John Green, who is one half of the Vlog Brothers channel on YouTube, which is just a great channel. I really love what those guys stand for, what they do. They are responsible for VidCon. They are responsible for the Foundation to Reduce World Suck. They are responsible for Esther Day, who is a real life young girl who suffered from cancer and passed away, and is kind of sort of the basis of Hazel and the book The Fault in Our Stars. And you may be wondering what me, a 24-year-old man who is not a teenage girl nor has terminal cancer, would find and relate to in this book. But oddly enough, I read it simply because of the response it was getting and the fact that I was a fan of the Blog Brothers channel. But I was pleasantly surprised to realize this isn't just a book about, terminal illness and teenage love. This is more of a life story above all else, and I really dig some of the ways they explain how to deal with tragedy, how to deal with death, how to deal with the inevitable. And of course that's all wrapped up in a uber cutesy kind of star-crossed love story of sorts. So it's got something for everyone, I think. But this is the movie we're talking about. I would have never thought in 1,000 years I'd see a YouTuber go from YouTuber to author to, his work being turned into the film. To the film, it's number one. It beat out the new Tom Cruise sci-fi flick, Edge of Tomorrow. It beat out, I can't remember what else came out recently. It's number one in the box office, though, right now. And for good reason. Girls are just lining up to see it, and it's kind of what I expected. So I went with my date, this uber cute lady over here, and the theater was just packed with teenage girls, and I was one of the only guys, but that's okay. I don't mind being one of the only guys in a theater. It's whatever. I just love movies. I'm gonna see every movie I can until the day I die, and this is just another one of them. But this movie, pretty good, considering the source material. I thought was The Fault in Our Stars book. I would put up in the 8.5 to 9 range of just. It's a really, really solid novel. It's got something for everyone, even if you're not a teenage girl, even if you don't have terminal cancer, even if you haven't found your own Augustus Waters of sorts, if you know what I mean. There's something for everyone in the book, and I really enjoyed that. And they translated that, for the most part, to the film. This film is directed by a man named Josh Boone, this is his second film, after 2012 Stuck in Love, which I have never seen, but it starred Greg Kinnear, Jennifer Connelly, Lily Collins. It looks like another romantic comedy, but meh. My biggest problem with romantic comedies is that they don't do the romance right so often, because real life romance is, fucked up and twisted and doesn't always make sense, and it'll let you down and it'll surprise you and all things like that. And romantic comedies miss that for the most part. And this one didn't for some reason, just because I guess, I don't know, the nature of the terminal illness of the two main characters at such a young age led to a more realistic depiction of romance, and I rather enjoyed that, because you just see too much bullshit, for lack of a better term, in Hollywood films, and they skipped a fair amount of that. Don't get me wrong, there's still plenty of lovey-dovey stuff going on in here, and if you're a teenage girl, or a girl period, you're probably gonna enjoy this. There's the love interest, Mr. Augustus Waters, played by Oh geez, I can't pronounce this guy's name. Ansel Elgort, who sounds like a German lord of some sort. Lord Ansel Elgort. He did a good job as the love interest, Gus. Augustus Waters. He's supposed to be this dreamy fella who, big fan of metaphors. For example, he has a pack of cigarettes where he just carries around at all times. And you may think, oh, a cancer patient, a cancer survivor nonetheless, smoking, that's a little bit fucked up. But he doesn't light the cigarettes because of the metaphor. You put the thing that kills you between your teeth, but you don't give it the power to kill you. Kind of cool. I kind of dig what that's all about. But yeah, he did a good job as the love interest. In the book, I don't know, I'm a full-grown man, I get it. But in the book, he was definitely supposed to be this dreamboat kind of character. And he pulled it off rather well. When the announcement, or when I guess the trailer dropped, I was a fan of the book, so I immediately started judging him, just like, oh, this pretty boy is going to be Augustus Waters. This iconic character of, The Fault in Our Stars book. But he did it. He did a really good job. And this guy is super young, actually. I can't... 94. Yeah, so he's 20 years old. And he's only been in a handful of films. He was in the Carrie remake, which was terrible. And he was in Divergent also with the Shailene Woodley, the main actress in this. So they were brother and sister actually in Divergent, and in this one they're love interests. So that's kind of weird, but whatever. He did a good job. Let's talk about Shailene for a minute here. She's had a little bit more experience as a child actor. She's been fairly busy. She's a little bit older too. She's 22-ish, something like that. But she plays a 17-year-old cancer survivor rather perfectly, I thought. And there's a tendency to pretty up roles like this, you know what I mean? As was pointed out to me, you would get somebody like Channing Tatum, who is clearly, the motherfucker's 28, and he would be playing, in 22 Jump Street, he's playing a high school kid, but they did notice that and make fun of that. But she fits this role perfectly, and she acted her ass off. The only thing I've ever really seen her in that I enjoyed was The Descendants with George Clooney, which I thought was an excellent film. But, she definitely acted her ass off here, and she really sold the character. Both of them together, the chemistry was excellent. I don't know if they're dating in real life, but I wouldn't put it past them because the chemistry on screen is that good. It reminded me of chemistry between Peter Parker's character and Gwen Stacy's character in the new Spider-Man, but because they were dating in real life, so they have good chemistry. So yeah, and this is actually a much better film than Amazing Spider-Man 2. That film was terrible, but the romance is definitely at the forefront of this film. But what they didn't skimp on and what they didn't lose out completely on is the real life stuff, because for me there's two things that matter about this film. It's getting the romance down right, and it's getting the real life dealing with tragedy, the pain demands to be felt line, that kind of stuff. And they did both of those rather well. This isn't a perfect film or a perfect adaptation. It's definitely heavy on the lovey-dovey stuff, as I definitely expected it would be. There's plenty of girls in the movie theater swooning at every line Ansel or Gus, said. And I expected that. There's definitely a whole lot of lovey-dovey stuff. But the fact that both characters have, a terminal illness, cancer, leads to a better realism of their romance. And I quite enjoyed it. It's something you don't see often. It's definitely a sad film, tear-jerker kind of film. I didn't cry because I'm a man, but definitely some tears going around the theater, and it's meant to do that because it's a story of cancer, and anyone out there who's had cancer affect their life in any way. I had my grandmother die of cancer, and it was 50-something days from the day she was diagnosed to the day that she passed away. So cancer is, for lack of a better word, a cocksucker. It does not make any sense. It doesn't care about emotions, reality. Cancer is just one of the worst things about human existence that we have yet to solve or figure out. And this film deals with that in a rather honest way, I thought. It does sugarcoat it a little bit here and there. You don't quite see just how much pain going through cancer, especially at a young age, would be. But they definitely don't, sugarcoat it or hide from it or anything like that, and I enjoyed that. So I don't know where else we could talk. We talked about the two main characters, Ansel and Shailene, who play Hansel and Gus. They did a great job. Their on-screen chemistry was good. It sold the relationship for me. And that's the biggest part about, an on-screen romance. If I don't believe these two people are in love, I just wasted my money as far as I'm concerned. But I did. They sold it. I wouldn't be surprised if these two are dating in real life, because they had a pretty much perfect chemistry. Hazel was, the right amount of bitter and sassy and, what's the word I'm looking for? Honest, because, she's dealt with her inevitable fate her whole life in the character Hazel, being diagnosed with terminal cancer. So that gives you somewhat of a realistic insight on life, I think, and that definitely came through in the characters here. Let's talk supporting cast. We got a man named Nat Wolff, who looks a little bit like McLovin from Superbad, but not quite. Plays Gus's friend, who he has some sort of optical cancer in the eyes, and he loses his eyesight, and there's a lot of funny moments. He's somewhat of the comedic relief in this film. I guess Gus is technically the comedic relief, but I really liked his character. The parents of Hazel, who play important roles, are the mother is played by Laura Dern, who you may remember from what did I see her in? I'm seeing she's been around for ages, but I don't. Jurassic Park 3, she was Dr. Eli Sattler in Jurassic Park 3. Some of you may recognize her from that. She was on Ellen's TV show back in the day. I definitely recognize her. Little Fockers, that's what I saw her in. That god-awful sequel to Meet the Parents. She did a very good job as the mother, and she, was appropriately heartbroken, and it was appropriately tragic for her to, I can't even fathom having a daughter diagnosed with cancer and dying at the young age of 17. Can't even fathom what that would be like, and she does a damn fine job of being, a mom. She's a believable mom. A man named Sam Tramiel, who is kind of a discount Brad Pitt looking fella. He plays the father. He does a good job. He hasn't been in much that I've seen. Apparently he's in True Blood. Some of you may be fans of that. I'm not. But I have seen him in what? I know I've seen him before. Where is it? Dexter. Oh yeah, he was in an episode of Dexter. I forgot about that. He's mostly a TV actor from the look of it. He's not the most important character in this film. The mother's definitely more of the support character for Hazel, but he does a good job. He is. Alien vs. Predator. He was in Alien vs. Predator Requiem. Yeah, this is a better role for him, I think. But like I said, not the most important character, but still good nonetheless. He held his own as the father of Hazel. Not exactly knowing what to do when your precious daughter is diagnosed with cancer / your daughter's dating an 18-year-old handsome fella. He does a good job of that. And I'm not going to spoil too much. Usually we dive right into spoilers, but for this kind of film, I think it's best left unsaid. If you haven't seen it or read the book, I'm not going to spoil what happens at the end. But there's an important character named Van Houten, which is the author of Hazel's favorite book, An Imperial Affliction, and he's played by Willem Dafoe, and I absolutely love Willem Dafoe. He's just has a legacy unlike anybody else. He's been Green Goblin and Spider-Man, Finding Nemo, Boondock Saints, one of my favorites. English Patient, what was that movie about vampires from a few years ago? It's gonna bug me unless I can find it. Daybreakers, sorry. He was in Fantastic Mr. Fox, and recently Nymphomaniac, which I haven't seen, but I've heard good things about. Anyways, he does a good job of being the, drunken old recluse author who, maybe got a little too personal in his book and kind of ruined things for himself. And he plays pretty much just an asshole. But I'm not going to dive too much into his role in the story and his relation to Gus and Hazel's character, because that's part of the story. And, I will say Gus uses his Make-A-Wish thing that kids in inopportune situations get. They can pretty much wish for anything and they'll get it. He uses the wish to go to Amsterdam and meet this actor on behalf of his lady friend Hazel, and it's that's a super romantic gesture, I would think. But I'm not going to go too far into anything else because it will spoil it. And that's about it as terms of supporting cast. There's a woman named, oh geez, how do you pronounce that? Latverbeek, who plays, I'm sorry if I butchered that name, I know I did. But she plays Van Houten's assistant, and she was the weakest point in the cast, I think, because that character is a little more important in the book, and it was just meh in the movie. She's there, but she doesn't really, I don't know. Her character in the books is a little more important and a little more relevant to Hazel and Gus's story, and they kind of skipped over that. So yeah, let's talk about the things that they missed in the book. Alright, sorry folks, I got cut off there by the recording. I was talking about things they missed in the book. There wasn't too many of them. Like I said, the woman I just mentioned, the assistant to Van Houten, played a more important role. There was a few things about Gus's backstory, including an ex-girlfriend who passed away that they kind of skipped over. Otherwise, there's not a whole lot they skipped over. A little bit between the relationship of Gus and his friend, whose name is now escaping me. Isaac, of course. A little bit they skipped out there. There was some video game moments I thought were kind of humorous, being a video game fanatic, in the book that they kind of skipped over, but hey, nobody's perfect. Overall, this is a decently faithful adaptation. They also cut John Green's cameo, I've read, because I was looking the whole time to see John Green in there just because he's, one of my favorite YouTubers, and it'd be cool to see him in a Hollywood film. Didn't see him anywhere, so if his cameo was in there, I didn't see it. But other than that, this was a faithful adaptation for the most part. Not a perfect film. This isn't going to fix all the problems I have with romantic comedies, but it does address and acknowledge a lot of them, meaning that, real life love and real life romance is complicated, like I mentioned, and there's a lot of bullshit and a lot of letdown and a lot of surprises and a lot of happy moments that you don't see coming. And this book addressed a lot of them, and the movie addressed a lot of them too. Not quite as many, but hey, nobody's perfect. So this is a step in the right direction, I think, for romantic comedies, because I've always said, if no one makes a romantic comedy properly, I'm just going to do it myself. And, I still might do it myself one day, but this is definitely a better romantic comedy. I keep calling it a romantic comedy, but it's more like a romantic tragedy with elements of humor in there to kind of lighten it up. But, I'm not a huge fan of genres anyways, like, forcing things into genres. I don't really know what else to speak of on this film. I was surprised because I liked the book more than I ever thought I would, because I'm not a 17-year-old girl who's in love and is dying of cancer. That is in no way me, but yet I was still able to relate to the story. And even though there was less of that in the film, that was still there. I could relate to the characters in the film. Anyone who deals with tragedy, anyone who deals with death, anyone who deals with how complicated and weird love can be sometimes. This movie addresses them more than a lot of other films of this nature does, and I enjoyed it. I think it's a step in the right direction. There's not a whole lot else I really want to say today, so this is going to be a bit of a shorter review. But hey, The Fault in Our Stars. If you got a hot date, this is kind of, not quite the perfect movie, because you might do a lot of crying. It won't really put you in the mood for loving afterwards, I'll say, but hey, this is a really good film that I would recommend that everyone sees, regardless if you're a teenage girl in love or you're some man in his late 20s thinking he's, hard as fuck. Because, previous reviews on this channel have all been like superhero movies and stuff, so I thought it would be fun to, or at least different, to throw in a review of a movie like this. But yeah, I liked it. I didn't think it was perfect. I don't think it's, groundbreaking by any means, but given the source material and given how easily they can screw up projects like this with casting and stuff, I thought the casting was solid. I thought, I'm not sure the budget of the film, but I'm sure it was, relatively reasonable. Let's see if I can find out the budget. $12 million. That's pretty damn good considering this is easily going to break $200 million on the box office if you want to talk numbers, and those are staggering numbers. 12 million, if anyone who doesn't know out there, is dirt cheap to make a Hollywood film these days. And I have a lot of love for anyone who can take a small budget like that and turn it into a success. Like, apparently the box office results so far, and this movie's only been out for a week, give or take, are in the $110 million range. So that is, nearly $100 million of profit. And I hope some of that goes to John Green, because he deserves it. And I want to see him continue to write. I want to see him continue the Vlogbrothers. I want to see him continue VidCon, the Esther Foundation, the Foundation for World Suck. I want to see all that take more steps in the right direction. Anyone who's not familiar with Vlogbrothers, I'll put a link in the channel, or link in the description below if you want to check them out. I highly recommend it. One of the best YouTubers, the YouTube groups, if you will, out there, period. They promote higher education on YouTube, and if you've ever taken a good long look at the YouTube comment section, you'll know that this is not really a ground for higher education. There's a lot of stupid people on YouTube, and I mean no offense to you if you're watching this video now, but they promote higher education, and I really appreciate that. And this movie, it does as well. I mean, Hazel's a book nerd. It talks about literary stuff. I don't know. This is definitely a better film with better role models for young women and young men than I've seen in a while. And that is somewhat necessary, I think. But that's about it. That's about all I wanted to say about this film today. I'm going to go ahead and give it a 7 out of 10, which may not sound great considering I gave Spider-Man a 5.5 or a 6, but don't get me wrong, 7 is a damn fine score for a film of this nature. Like I said, I would put the book up in the 8.5 range just because of how relatable it is to real life. But this movie isn't perfect, but it's still a 7 out of 10. It's worth your time. If you got, like I said, if you got a date, this is a perfect movie for that. If you just, I don't know, if you're by yourself and bored and you want to, get your cry on, I think this is a good movie too. It doesn't make you any less of a man to get your cry on for a movie. I'm just going to throw that out there. But anyways, 7 out of 10 for me. Certain someone gave it a 6, but I don't know if I agree with that. But yeah, that's going to wrap up my review of The Fault in Our Stars film based on the book by John Green. I recommend this film. Check it out. If you want to see any of my other reviews, link in the description as well. And if you dig what I do, leave a like, a comment, a subscribe. Leave a subscribe. Hit the subscribe button if you like what I do so you can see everything I do in the future. I got a lot of content coming, and I thank you all for joining me on this review of a rather different film for my channel. Anyways, thank you all, and I will see you next time.